Dead Space 3 is an okay game, at least as a third-person shooter. As a survival horror game, it's pretty bad, especially compared to Dead Space 1 and 2. Enemies are faster and more aggressive, but the player is also more mobile, and you're given so many resources that resource management is never something you need to worry about, especially ammo, but more on that later. The game took more of an action co-op focus, rather than the mix of horror and combat the previous games did so well, and the enemy variety is sorely lacking. In the entire game there are 2 pregnants. 2! They're one of the best designed enemies in the series. Why are there only 2 of them? Pukers? They barely show up. At least the stalkers are still here. And the last few levels of the game do have a good variety of enemies. It just takes ages to get there, as the game is much longer and more slowly paced compared to its predecessors. Overall, the combat in Dead Space 3 is more frantic, less rewarding, and, quite honestly, more boring than 1 and 2. There are more enemies, so you're shooting more. Enemies are faster, so there's less point in kiting and more reason to just keep shooting. And they're all the same enemies, so you're just shooting the same way over and over. And the biggest problem is that you'll be using the same gun for almost all of it. Cause, yeah, there are other problems I could talk about, like the story adding an evil British villain, and a love triangle subplot, cause that's what Dead Space needed. But while all of that is surface level bad stuff, the problems with the weapon crafting might not be noticed for a while, or even on your first playthrough, but they're the reasons that keep me from getting more than a few hours into a new playthrough, and I want to talk about them. Let's begin with how crafting works. You start with a frame, either a one-handed light frame or a two-handed heavy frame, both with upper and lower slots, where you can combine a tool and a barrel to make a variety of different weapons. There are a few differences between frames, namely, light frames have faster reloads, less damage, and fewer customization options. There's not much of a reason to use one unless you really want a backup weapon, which you probably won't, but more on that soon. There's no limit to what weapons you can combine on a single frame, which can make this seem initially very appealing. Want to combine a line gun and a shotgun, or an automatic rifle with a rocket launcher? Sure thing! There are even some exclusive combinations. The plasma cutter's rotation module is its own thing that can be added to the line gun to make a giant plasma cutter, though I'm not sure why you would. And the rivet guns can activate either an electric shock or explosion on the last rivet fired, though that's not very useful on the shotgun. This all seems pretty cool, right? I mean, sure, each weapon might not have its own distinct identity, but the bigger problems start to pile on pretty fast. For starters, you can only carry 2 frames at once, and given that you need to use both slots to make one old weapon, which you used to be able to carry 4 of, you only have half the number of weapons on hand compared to the previous games. Secondly is the upgrading system. Instead of having power nodes that you could use to get upgrades tuned to that specific weapon, now you have upgrade chips which can be slotted around as needed, which means that you're better off putting all your best upgrades on one weapon, leaving the other one permanently lacking. But the biggest problem comes from the way ammo works. In previous games, if you tried to use only one weapon of the 4 you had, you would quickly run low on ammo and have to swap. So you had this delicate balance of using what had the most ammo or what weapon worked best in that situation. Here, ammo is universal. It doesn't matter what you make, it all uses the same ammo, and ammo efficiency makes some weapons near useless. Every gun costs the same amount of ammo to fully reload. 4. 8 ammo to fully reload both weapons on a frame. This has one interesting upside, being that increasing a weapon's ammo efficiency can be done by upgrading either damage or magazine size, but the problems far outweigh the benefits. Firstly, it can be hard to know exactly how much ammo a reload will cost you, and in a game where resource management is meant to be important, not knowing how an action will affect my resources doesn't feel good. But the bigger problem is that the contact beam still exists. It one-shots basically everything in the game and has a magazine of 4. A nice clean 1 ammo to 1 kill benchmark to compare all other weapons to. So you ask yourself, can this get a kill with less than a quarter of its magazine? And most weapons can't. A lot don't even come close. As a quick cheat sheet, the Ripper is still the king of ammo efficiency, as long as you don't get interrupted while using it, and remember that there are many more enemies in this game. The shotgun can be more efficient, but it's unreliable. The grenade launcher matches it, as long as you're getting at least 2 kills per shot. But the winner, as far as I'm concerned, is the Tesla core with Diffraction Taurus. This thing can reliably one-shot enemies with a larger magazine and a shorter charge time than the contact beam, but with a shorter range. Honourable mentions to the military sniper for being able to one-shot without a charge up, albeit with a smaller magazine, and the rivet chain gun for being reasonably efficient, fun as hell, and good for breaking these cover thingies and dealing with these guys. So, make your super efficient gun, never change it, and get bored a few hours into the game. Or forget about resource management and just use what you find most fun. I said at the start that the game is not a good survival horror game, so don't try to play it like one. Even at normal difficulty, you'll be swimming in resources. So if you do want to play the game, don't overthink it like I have. Maybe try to grab a friend and get some alcohol to get you through the story.
I turned my back on the world because I was afraid of what needed to be done. Ellie, I'm not afraid anymore.
What the hell are you talking about?